Glory is a 1989 American historical war drama film directed by Edward Zwick about the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, one of the Union Army's earliest African American regiments in the American Civil War. It stars Matthew Broderick as Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, the regiment's commanding officer, and Denzel Washington, Cary Elwes, and Morgan Freeman as fictional members of the 54th. The reason why I wanted to talk about this film is that it was actually growing up, I've always been a history nerd, a history buff, and I love learning more about the American Civil War specifically. I actually find it far more fascinating than the American Revolutionary War and even other kind of conflicts. I've always been very fascinated with the Civil War. And I came across this film when I went to Walmart when I was a little kid, and I saw a DVD kind of case which provided two films in one for a good discounted deal. It was like under $10. And the two DVDs that it provided were Glory, this 1989 film, and also The Patriot, the 2000 Mel Gibson film. And when I saw Glory for the first time, I thought it was absolutely wonderful. I loved it. And when I saw The Patriot, I thought that movie was just so corny and stupid and just ridiculous. And still to this day, I'm kind of amazed at how bad that movie is. But I was really impressed with Glory, as it really told well the story about the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, as it's an important story to tell about this all African American regiment in the Civil War. And I feel that Edward Zwick did a great enough job of like depicting that historical period and really providing like the great uniforms, really creating these sort of unique and very engaging battles, these awesome battles that are in the film, especially the battle at Antietam and the end battle at Fort Wagner, are all very convincing. It's all very great. The issue though that I do have with this film is that I think the main actor, Matthew Broderick, who was cast as Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, I don't think Matthew Broderick is a very good actor. And in this role, I feel like he was miscast. Compared to the other side actors, Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, and Cary Elwes to an extent, I think their performances were fantastic. Morgan Freeman is a sergeant in this movie, and man, Morgan Freeman never disappoints, and neither does Denzel Washington, who also plays sort of a very much disobedient soldier, and he's kind of questioning his role being in the kind of regiment, and he does a fantastic job as well in the movie. I thought their performances, their characters were wonderful, but I feel like the biggest problem is that getting Broderick to play Robert Gould Shaw and the kind of too much of a focus on his character in the film, when the movie should have been more focused on the soldiers, the African American soldiers themselves, because that is where the actors really shine. Morgan Freeman did a fantastic job. Denzel Washington did a fantastic job. It should have been their stories. It should have been those characters' stories, because the movie, again, it feels like this is a story about the African American soldiers. And if you're going to focus somewhat of time on Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, they should have casted a better actor to do so. I think Matthew Broderick's only role where he was really great was in the film War Games. If anybody ever checked that movie out, I highly recommend it. It's a very interesting thriller, and it's very intense, and I think him as a teenager in that movie was a great choice. But his films in like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and especially this movie, and even in like Alexander Payne's Election, which I think is one of Alexander Payne's worst films, I think his acting in that movie is just so terrible. And there's nothing really to convince me that his performances are actually really that great. They're either very bland or very boring, and I feel that each movie that he does, he never really shows off his acting talents, and it isn't displayed here either. I know that his acting has been given great reviews for this film at that time, but to me, I am not convinced, and I really thought that someone else should have been in that role. The other issues that I might have with the film is that it is of its time because there are some corny elements to the movie. Some of the effects, especially the battle scenes where there's explosions and the fighting, some of it can be come off as a little bit corny and bad. And I feel that what would really be beneficial is that this story of the 54th Massachusetts be retold for a modern audience, be updated for a modern audience, because this is a very important story and a very important part of American history. Especially, people need to learn about the sacrifices that were made at the Second Battle of Fort Wagner, how there was large amounts of casualties of these soldiers who bravely charged that fort. It's a really incredible battle to learn about. And I feel like this is the type of movie that needs to, or this type of story that needs to be updated and retold, and a story that needs to focus more on the slaves turned soldiers, on the African American soldiers themselves, rather than the colonels and the sergeants who led them. Because yeah, I think Robert Gould Shaw is a fascinating historical figure, and I like the fact that yes, they kind of explored his story, but I feel it's just, and I'm gonna keep repeating myself, I feel like this story should belong to the African American soldiers themselves. Edward Zwick does a fantastic job when it comes to editing, and the music in this film is really great, especially the ending credits music. I like to listen to sometimes on repeat. It helps me think. I think it's really inspiring music. Everything else about this movie actually does pretty well. Like I stated, he knows how to capture that period of time and put it on screen. From the costumes to the vernacular to everything else that really was part of that period in American history. He does well of putting it on screen. I haven't seen his other films except for like Blood Diamond. I think Blood Diamond was a very corny movie. And I feel like Glory is his sort of best movie on his filmography. I don't know. I think I've seen his other films and they're not that fantastic either. But yeah, I just that's the real main issue that I have with this film, is that Matthew Broderick's performance and the focus on his character of Robert Gould Shaw was really lacking, and I think the movie should have been more focused on Morgan Freeman and Denzel Washington. And Cary Elwes, again, he does a fine enough job, but again, there's nothing phenomenal about his acting. It's kind of amazing to me that, yeah, if this movie sort of didn't focus too much on the Colonel, I really think it would have been even more of a better classic. I understand why people consider this movie a classic, but again, this is a type of film or not a film, but a story that needs to be remade. And I would love to see it remade today and get a really great, competent director and more importantly, get a cast of amazing actors and have some really great writing in it, and you then have an American classic on your hands. So yeah, that I know I've been sort of trashing this movie in a sense, but I do like this movie a lot, even though with the issues of the casting, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely check it out. I think it's a really great American Civil War film. It's a lot better than Gettysburg. Gettysburg was just a 4-hour long, needlessly long kind of film. It should have been a kind of a mini-series, but this movie completely hits that out of the ballpark, because I think this movie is just pretty good, pretty darn good. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Tell me where I'm wrong, if my assessment of Matthew Broderick is a little bit too harsh. Let me know if you guys even like this film and feel like it's a great American Civil War film or not, or if you guys recommend other movies. Let me know down in the comment section down below. Subscribe to my main channel, Samson1202, as I would highly appreciate that. Thank you for watching this rant review, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day.